Okay, I thought I'd go ahead and start this as a part one of I'm going to call it a project. I actually bought it as a project, but I bought it to try to make some money on. And I know I'm in the garage, so I'm very limited on space, so I'll just give you an idea. This is a 2004 Chevy Avalanche, obviously Z71. It is four-wheel drive. And besides the leather, it pretty much has most of the other options that most of these had, with sunroof and Bose, the dual climate control, blah 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 blah. Okay, got a 5.3, got 373 gears. I've already checked into a lot of this stuff. I found it on Craigslist down in Muskogee, Oklahoma. Yeah, I had to make a miserable trip down when the weather was just as crappy as you could imagine. It was raining, freezing, cold. And yes, there's a light on in there. I'll get to that here in just a minute. Basically, it said it was low mileage at 139,000. It actually had 138. Not that that's a big deal, but anyway, said that sorry, I stepped on something. Said it had low oil pressure, and he had it listed for 3,000, and I wasn't going to pay that much for it, but I wanted to look at it first. So it wasn't I had trouble getting a hold of him. I was limited on time, and he had other people wanting to come look at it. So I go down there to look at this, call him up the night before I was at work. Had to work 12-hour shift, get off 5 in the morning, and made myself wake up about 9 o'clock. Went over to the shop, got the pickup trailer loaded, left at 9:30, headed down to Muskogee. It took me 2 hours to get to his place, and it's just raining and freezing and miserable, and the thing looks really good sitting there. But I could see it had some stuff that visible. There's some stuff on the driver's door. I don't know what it is. I'll deal with that. And like I said, somebody's put that chrome garbage on the handles. I don't know if I can get them off without taking everything apart, or whether they're just stuck on. I don't know what it'll look like. I'd rather not be there, but we'll kind of look into that. Well, here's the problem with buying something in the rain. It looks really good when it's shiny and wet, but then when I get it home and it dries up, because it rained all the way home, I get there the next morning and I look at the hood. Clear coat's coming off on top of the doors. And that's not a big deal for me, but I didn't see it in the pictures he took, and I didn't see it the day it was raining. Now, I didn't look at it real quick. I mean, it was miserable. You couldn't even hardly stand out there in the rain, but it's my fault. I'm not blaming this on him. I didn't specifically ask him if it had clear coat coming off. But then I get looking at it a little closer once it's dry and realize at least the driver's side has been repainted, and they didn't do a very good job on the clear on it. When I get it out and cleaned it, it's so dirty right now. I just got back from a 30-mile drive on it, kind of checking all the problems it may or may not have. And it's got the black stuff all over the hood and really bad up on the roof. Let me open the door here. You can see how dirty everything's dirty. Nobody ever cleans the top, it doesn't seem like. But we'll get her cleaned up and stuff when it warms up, and get a little closer look at the paint. I can probably just buff it out like I did that Mustang and get it looking decent, but the hood will have to be at least redone along with the tops of these doors with some clear, and I may have to do that side over there. I don't know if it was wrecked or what. I really don't know why it is. As far as the interior, the seats were replaced, but they were replaced with the similar that came out of it, so you can see that's there. Now, I don't know if that console center is supposed to be that color or whether it's supposed to be the tan, but it matches the seat centers and the door panel centers, so I don't know if that's the color it was supposed to be or not. I don't really care. Headliner's sagging a little on the driver's side, and then there's paint coming off the top of the dash, which we had a 01 Suburban, same color interior. Everything is black, and they just dye them, and you can see it's shiny as heck underneath, so the paint's just flaking off. You can repaint these if you get the right color, but without doing the whole dash, boy, it's kind of hard to match up. And I hate spraying stuff inside a vehicle because it's dirty, it smells, and everything gets covered with overspray. And anyway, it doesn't matter. We'll look into this. Okay, the driver's seat's extremely dirty and got a cigarette burn. A little cleaning on this side though, and it should come out all right. So anyway, so far everything I've checked works. Inside, the radio antenna, which is really small, does not do a very good job. I can only pick up really local stations, and unfortunately one of them is music I don't listen to, and the other one is country, which I definitely don't listen to. So not a big deal. I don't It's just, it doesn't do very good like I thought it would. So far, the automatic locks work with the key fob. I got 4 keys, but 1 key fob. That's, you know, the dual climate control works. I've not checked the air conditioner. It's just been way too cold to check. Power windows seem to work. I have not checked the back ones yet, so I better not say all of it. But anyway, the first thing when he started it up, and it started right up, and he starts telling me that what happened was it had a code that popped up when he bought it. He bought it as a hunting rig or something, like in October, so he hadn't had it very long, and it started running. It was running or started running really rough. So he either took it to a mechanic or decided it was the plugs and wires himself, and he replaced those, and it didn't make any difference. So he takes it to a mechanic. I don't know what mechanic he took it to. I just hope that I never have to deal with that particular mechanic again, and I'll get into that in a minute. But the mechanic told him, I kid you not, the mechanic told him the random misfire, which is what the code is, and I'll show you here in just a minute what I'm getting, is caused by low oil pressure. And I told him, I said, and I mean, I was straightforward with him. I said, I'm going to have to disagree with that, sir. That's not accurate. This does not have the DOD, displacement on demand, and even if it did, low oil pressure would not cause it to misfire. If anything, it would cause the DOD not to work. Now, that's in my eyes. I am not a certified mechanic. I have been around the DOD in a Super Sport Impala we had, and I know how the DOD works, and pretty close to how it works. And if it had low oil pressure, that's not the problem. This thing made 0 sounds when he started up, and I've started up cold twice now, from dead cold. I'm not getting any engine noises, no rattles or ticks or nothing, and the thing's holding oil pressure. So it's not an oil pressure problem. However, it is missing. So he told me, well, I put a new battery in and a new alternator. Well, then I look and I assume when he took the alternator off, the guy must have cut the wire, so this is his fix. That's fine if it doesn't have any power going through it, but it's got open ends on it. It's not, I don't know who would do something like that and just leave it exposed. But then it all comes clear when it won't start on me the next day after I shut it off. They have put top post battery terminals on it, both sides. This one's already off, but it still had the side post fittings on it, and so they actually had it bolted to here and to this one, and that's how they had it bolted. Well, every time I went to start it, about every other time it wouldn't start. It was like it didn't have bad ground. It was almost always the positive side. Well, here's the problem. Look how close this is to the body, and the battery is not bolted down to anything, and it's right up against I mean, this is suicide. I'm taking this off, obviously. I'm going to move the battery aside and take that loose. I don't know who would do something like that and allow it to. I would be embarrassed to have something leave my shop like that. When these two little studs I bought were $2.73. So why, in the name of all that is holy, would you spend money on these, even if it didn't have a side post battery, which it's probably why they did it? I still don't understand. I would not have allowed this to leave. I mean, it doesn't matter. Now, one thing it does have that's interesting, I did not realize that the half-ton, well, specifically the Avalanche, I mean, we had that 01 Suburban did have, but it actually has a Hydro Boost brake system. My HD Chevy has that, which it's understandable. And almost every diesel, well, actually every GM diesel I've ever around had it too, but I was surprised to see that it actually had the Hydro Boost on it. Excuse me, I just had a big lunch. It's killing me now. So, anyway, I am going to move this light out of the way, and, well, yeah, I better not sit that there. Anyway, so I'm now going to show you a couple of the other things. And the first thing that got me when I got into the vehicle, and he never mentioned this before, and again I didn't ask, was the second he started it up, guess what light comes on? I'll show you when I start it up. Now first, let me get the codes read on it, and I'll show you what it's coming up as. Now, it may not give me one because I actually had the battery unhooked, but I will try it. I'll try turning this off. There we it goes. I'm hearing something running. Okay, this is one of the worst codes you can ever get. P0300. And showing one of two. Doesn't matter, that one's pending, it's the same thing. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start it up. Fires right up. However, look what is flashing on the left side there. Let me close the door. And look what it says. Now that's another sucky thing that you sure don't want. So I told him, I said, man, I really can't drive it. It wasn't tagged insured. He lived out in the middle of nowhere, but I did stick it in gear, moved it back and forth a little bit. And here was my biggest thing. And I'm telling you guys, when you buy something used, make sure you check everything, because this bit me in the butt. This one is the worst thing that it could have been. I'm going to turn this off. I checked while I was there if it engaged the four-wheel drive or not. And generally, if it doesn't work, either none of the lights will work, or you push whichever one you're on and it just will not go to it, or it'll be something stupid. I pushed every one of those buttons, put it in gear and let it move, including low range, and everything worked fine. I never give it any gas. It was in his yard, it was kind of nasty, and that was a mistake. I moved it outside a little bit ago to work on somebody else's pickup, and I had it in the yard, and mind you, I told you it was raining, and everything was wet, and I went to move it, and it got stuck. So I put it in four-wheel drive and give it gas, and there is something in the front end that sounds so bad. So it pulled itself out, so the four-wheel drive does work, but you can't run it. So I'm going to have to jack this thing up and find out what it is. I assume it's the front center differential. I won't know again until I get underneath here. I mean, it'd be nice if it was a front drive shaft, because I actually have one for this, but I really doubt it is. I think it's something catastrophic. And what's bad is I had that 03 Tahoe that I stripped, and the front end, CVs, brakes, rear axle, everything went, because I'm getting a whine at 40 mile an hour above and a clunk going into third gear. Again, I'm going to jack it up and check to see if it's a rear end or if it's part of this front end problem, because if you run it up really, as high as RPM as it'll take in drive and kick into second gear, you got a really bad clunk from the front. So I'm hoping all my noises and problems are from the front end and not both front and back. But I didn't check them. I checked, but I didn't check. So I'm going to tell you guys, when you buy something used, you check everything that's on it if you plan on driving it every day or buying it for your family, for whatever reason, your wife or one of your kids or whatever. Now, again, I bought this as a project. And yes, I did not pay $3,000 for it, but I still paid, probably now that I see some of the other things wrong with it, I probably paid a little more than what I should have. And it's not that I can't get money back out of it, because these things are actually still going for quite a bit of money. And going down the road, the thing is great. Now, let's get back to this code, this P0300. That is I don't know, let me get my light out of the way, get this thing up where you can see it. Random multiple cylinder misfire detected. The reason I say that is a bad code to have is because, I'm going to get back out, is because it's not specific. That is a very vague code. And I have looked at people on YouTube who's ran into that, and actually a lot of the Chevrolet forums who's run into this same code, and they replace all kinds of stuff. Plugs, wires, obviously being number one. Fuel pressure regulator. This does not have one. It's actually built into the fuel pump. This was, I believe, the first year of that. And I thought it was 05, but this may be like a late 04. People's replaced the crank sensor, and then they've replaced the O2 sensors, and several other things. Vacuum leaks, so they usually replace the intake manifold gaskets. There's several things that people replace to try to fix this problem. And there's nothing wrong with that, except that you're throwing a lot of money at something yet you don't know what's wrong. And I've even got one guy who said he took it to Chevrolet after he replaced all that stuff. He finally took it and told him to read the code. And when it came back, he said that he kept driving by there and the thing never did move, and they called him back and said, we can't find out what's wrong with it. And he said it run worse when he brought it back. So I don't know what to do or what to tell you, but and if you're buying something used, I'm telling you, look at everything possible. So I'm going to pull the top of this off just to make sure there's not a fuel pressure regulator on there, although normally it's right there, and it's not there now. So I'm guessing that this does not have one. It's a return style that's part of the pump. And I'm going to look at all the wires. If this wire here was broke, I'm going to look every wire over, going to every part of this, just to see if I've got grounds that are unhooked, or other broken things, or something that maybe it sat for a while and some rat got up in there and ate some of the wires. But what it's doing, the reason it keeps throwing that code is it runs really, really fat and really, really rough at an idle. And once you take off, get past 1500, start down the road, everything it smooths right out, goes away, everything is fine. I mean, there's not an issue anywhere with it. But as soon as you come back down to an idle, it starts loping and being really goofy. It doesn't die, but it actually stupid. And the reason I don't think it's an O2 or a crank sensor is usually if those go bad, if they go bad, they'll tell you they're bad. I have never had one not tell me that that's what what was wrong. But I've also never had this random misfire. Usually it's specifically a cylinder or whatever. But in this particular case, it's not giving me that. It's giving me very, very random stuff. Now that I got the battery problem fixed, now I can keep driving. I'm not going to clear those codes. I'm going to keep driving it if I can't find something obvious here, and then I'll take it and actually have it read. My code reader does not data log. Some of them do. They actually show real time. Maybe I better say that. It's not necessarily data log. But I may have to buy an actual, a good reader that can also do brakes and airbags and stuff like that. Now it just happened to be that my local auto parts store, somebody had bought one of those code readers, which is like $220 for the airbag system. He used it once and he brought it back. So it was still there with an open package. So they took it out and read it for me, and it's a driver's side. It says open loop driver's side. There's about 3 things it can be. I can fix 2 of them. The third one will have to have the airbag itself replaced, which is always possible. But I've noticed that there's a few things in that column that it doesn't seem to want to shut off the high beams. It's hard to get them on and it's hard to get them back off. And so it may be something in the column itself. But I'm going to really look this thing over to see if it's been wrecked before, and maybe that's the problem. But it actually showed open loop on driver's side, so I don't think it's that big of a deal. But I will not sell something if I don't believe the safety systems are working proper. So, I'm just not that guy. So anyway, I'm going to look this over. This will be part 1 of the Chevy Avalanche purchase, and we'll go from there. So we'll talk to you guys later.